something that we've touched on briefly in previous streams, and it's getting bad. So, of course, QAnon is this conspiracy theory movement that we've talked about plenty on this channel. I'm not going to go over the whole thing again and beat a dead horse, but basically, there are individuals that, due to postings on 4chan and later 8kun, previously 8chan, run by Jim and Ron Watkins, believe that they have been communicated to by a government entity known as Q. Colloquially at the time when it started, known as QAnon, because people on the chans are known as Anons. So he was QAnon. There were other Anons too, like CIA Anon. There were other ones, but the QAnon one stuck. This individual has been fucking with conspiracy theorists to their own ends, for whatever reason, for years. They haven't posted in a while, but the crux of their thing that became this movement is Democrats, the wealthy, but specifically like democratic, left-leaning, progressive wealthy people, are secretly Satanists who are abusing and murdering and eating children for Satan and to live forever because they think kids have chemicals in their brains if you traumatize them called adrenochrome that you can then take like a recreational drug and live forever. Yes, this is a thing real adults believe. And they believe that the only hope to stop this evil satanic cabal is Donald Trump working with his hero team of Lin Wood, Sidney Powell, used to be Mike Pence, but they don't like Mike Pence anymore. Adrenochrome on the card, sure. You get it. Just crazy bullshit. In addition to this crazy conspiracy theory narrative is that of JFK Jr. returning to become Trump's VP. Okay. So how do I explain this one? I was talking with Baha about this last night and how this comes from. And I've decided that when you are talking about conspiracy theories, you need to shift gears. A normal person like you or I, when we're looking at someone's belief systems and trying to understand the root of that belief system, we typically would probably ask ourselves something along the lines of, how did you get to this from A to B to C? What are the facts or the evidence available that led you from here to your conclusion? Not unreasonable. This is not how you need to look at conspiracy theories like QAnon, because these people are not following evidence. They're not following pieces of tangible proof that lead them to conclusions. You need to think about this like a narrative, because conspiracy theories are not logic-driven, they are narrative-driven. They are rhetorically driven, okay? Especially something like this that gets very culty. So it's not about what you can prove, it's not about what you can substantiate, it is about what feels good as a narrative. So when they bring JFK Jr. into this, it has everything to do with American dynasties, and especially older Americans yearning for a version of America that they have never themselves been a party to, but idealize in their head for a number of reasons. So, look at your average QAnon boomer believer, or even older Gen X. Someone in their 50s or their 60s. Someone who, when JFK died, either wasn't alive or they were very young and not politically engaged. To them, the idea of JFK is that of the idealized American president, right? JFK was a progressive Democrat at the time, at least in terms of labor, right? So a lot of people have very positive positions on JFK Jr. Of course, JFK Sr. JFK probably would not have liked modern-day Republicans very much. Surprise. But that doesn't matter, because it's not about the real person that JFK was, it's about what JFK represents. And that is the idealized American president from a time when America was doing the best it has ever done, basically. Our culture was dominant, our economy was booming, everything was great. If you were white, and especially if you were a straight white dude. But that's their perception, because a lot of the QAnon people, most of the QAnon people, are straight white people. So anyway, a lot of QAnon people also believe in conservative ideals like dynasties, like basically like a public sector monarchy, right? So, of course you can't have JFK coming back from the dead, although some also believe that. But of course, JFK would be over 100 years old at this point. Would that make him the oldest living president if he were somehow alive? Or not the oldest living. Of course he'd be the oldest living, but I mean like the oldest living ever. The oldest to ever live. The point I'm trying to make is, the narrative that makes this make sense to QAnon people is that we need a real American president, JFK, to come back and save us from the nightmare that has become America in the 21st century, aka a more, at least socially progressive America that, talks about racial issues, lets gay people get married, allows trans people to exist. None of that would fly back in the 60s. So, in order to harken back to this time, they believe that the dynastic heir to the JFK idealized presidential throne belongs to JFK Jr., who died in the late 90s. But in this version of the narrative, because this is a compelling narrative for them, JFK Jr. faked his own death and laid in wait as a savior to come back and work with Trump in order to save America from all these, communistic left-winger, demon, satanic, whatever. This is how this gets ingratiated into the belief system. Not because there's any evidence of it, but because there is a clear narrative that is compelling to those who wish to believe it. Okay? All makes sense? Good. No more questions as to why do they believe JFK Jr. is coming back. That's why. Because it is a compelling narrative to them. Period. Cool. Tellurian Katrin says, the most interesting thing about Negative 48 stuff is they keep claiming to see celebrities from specific periods, 60s to the 80s mostly, so I low-key think that part of the system is nostalgia. Oh yeah, it's a huge part of it. Smythical Creature, thanks for 13 months, Tellurian Katrin with 100 bits, says, so all these celebrities from this time period faking their deaths and coming back from a victory lap is the embodiment of nostalgia. Yes, it's literally conservatives, or in this case, regressives, yearning for not only a metaphorical return to the past in terms of winding the clock back on rights for, women, LGBT people, other minorities. It is a literal return to the past in that we have people coming back from the dead in order to visually remind you things are back how they're supposed to be. Rachology says, I hear a lot of women had positive positions on JFK at the time, too. Hydrate. Okay. Princess Amelia says, this is crazy, even by QAnon standards. That's quite an achievement. I know. Ice Queen says, stupid. Very, very stupid question. But why are they not obsessed with the very alive Carolyn Kennedy, then? Misogyny? Yes. Killjoy says, I was joking in 2020 about it being a religion. I'm not laughing anymore. Trump will outlive us as a messiah figure. Reactionary is the term I would use instead of regressive, by the way. Yeah, it's literally because JFK Jr. was a guy. People in the QAnon thing don't think women can lead. Okay, so, Alumet, thanks for 6 months. So let's read the actual articles. That was just all preface for what's going on with the, negative 42 people or whatever. So, these articles are going to be in chronological order, and then we're going to watch some videos on this cult that is forming around this JFK Jr. belief. These articles are by Vice, by the way, who have been keeping tabs on this story. Hundreds of QAnon supporters are currently traveling from all across the United States to Dallas, where they expect to see John F. Kennedy suddenly reappear on Tuesday night and ordain former President Donald Trump as the, quote, King of Kings, which is usually a, what's the word I'm thinking of? An honorific designated for that of Jesus Christ in Christianity, just so you know. Where did the negative 42 come from? I'm actually not sure. It's the name of their group. Maybe the articles will go into it. Tucker White says, I wonder if in 50 to 100 years from now, if we'll have this same idiocy with the return of, say, Obama. That'd be funny. Them thinking Obama will return, but with, like, whatever the fashy right-wing piece of shit is a thing in the future. It's cute that we're talking about American politics 100 years from now. Like, that'll be a thing. Anyway. Things have degenerated too quickly. Do you see what we're reading today? Epitaph? Okay, thank you. Yeah, honorific is like Mr., Mrs., Doctor, right? Anyway. Epithet. Anyway, some QAnon followers were so eager to secure their place for the return of JFK that on Monday night, hundreds of them gathered in Dealey Plaza, where Kennedy was shot in 1963, waiting for the latest QAnon conspiracy theory to come true. I like that they say waiting for the latest QAnon conspiracy to come true. Bad wording. It sort of implies any of the QAnon stuff has come true at all, which it, of course, has not. Tucker White says also there's one true King of Kings. Behold the King. I don't get wrestling jokes. I've never seen a single wrestling match in my life. If you send me a WWE joke, over my head. Over my horns, actually. Andrew Patello says, King Trump on bingo? You betcha. QAnon influencers are promoting several different versions of the conspiracy theory and what will supposedly happen on Tuesday night. According to Whiplash 347, an account with almost 250,000 followers, Trump will be reinstated as the 18th president of the United States because everything since 1871, the date the sovereign citizen movement claims the U.S. became a corporation, is, quote, illegal. So yes, this QAnon cult is including ideology stolen from sovereign citizens. Whiplash 347 continues that Trump will then step down, and JFK Jr., who died in a plane crash in 1999, will become president like he would if it wasn't for Hillary plotting to kill him. End quote. Did I mention they think Hillary Clinton killed JFK Jr. in the 90s? They think that. Joining JFK Jr. as vice president will be the disgraced former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn. Here's a tweet. There is currently a large crowd of what appears to be QAnon believers at the AT&T Discovery Plaza in downtown Dallas. A popular QAnon theory recently is that JFK Jr. of the Kennedy family will make a big announcement at Dealey Plaza by the grassy knoll sometime tomorrow. Here are the pictures. A lot of people. Just saying. H. Baird says, as far as QAnon prophecies coming true, didn't Trump say tippy top or something like that? I think so. Nick says, what the fuck? This is like Chud Voltron. Ice Queen says Andy Kaufman should take this opportunity to come back. Honestly, if Andy Kaufman came back from the dead and the last, 5 or 6 years have all just been one big Andy Kaufman joke, I wouldn't be bad. Be like, that tracks. That makes sense. That makes a lot more sense than whatever we thought was happening previously. Anyway, at this point, Trump will ascend to become one of the 7 new kings, most likely the King of Kings. Michael Brian Protzman, who runs the Negative 48 channel, over 100,000 subscribers, sees things differently. Protzman has long claimed that the Kennedy... Hold on, I gotta copy-paste so we can check out their channel. Protzman has long claimed that the Kennedy bloodline is directly linked to Christ. He told his followers that on Tuesday, JFK Sr., Jackie, and JFK Jr. will be reintroduced to the world. Then, the JFK Sr. will travel around for 7 days, then will pass. What? Does JFK Sr. know he's gonna die 7 days after coming back from the dead? The shit. Michael Brian Protzman, who runs... I just read that one, sorry. Before he dies, however, quote, JFK Sr. will transfer power to Donald Trump and JFK Jr. will be Trump's vice president. Another part of the conspiracy claims that JFK's return will coincide with the reversion to the Julian calendar, which means the date will change immediately back to October 20th. As ludicrous and outrageous as all these claims are, it's a clear indication that the hold that the QAnon conspiracy movement has over its followers, that hundreds of them gathered in Dallas more than 24 hours before this, is all scheduled to take place. Blackwing Hecate says, no kings, no masters. Unless it's JFK Jr. Then tread on me, daddy. As ludicrous and outrageous as all these claims are, just read that, sorry. A live video of the gathering on Monday night was posted on YouTube by Patriot Dave, a QAnon supporter from Missouri. He spoke to dozens of members of the crowd, asking them where they'd traveled from for the event. People said they had come from Florida, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Delaware, New York, California, North Carolina, Michigan, Arizona, Utah, Minnesota, Georgia, South Dakota, and Indiana. Many in attendance wore t-shirts with the words Trump Kennedy 2024 emblazoned on the front. Hydrate. Killjoy says this whole thing is like a JFK / Book of Revelation / fanfic. Yep. QAnon claimed as a source. Fuck it, yeah. Why is it always Michigan on bingo? Yeah. We'll go over the bingo card. It's fine to call them out. I'm just saying, like, we'll go over the bingo card at the end of this segment. Procagom says, look, I know we've been in cult territory for a few years, but now we are in a cult. Yeah. We're in a cult territory. Yeah. Many more QAnon followers have indicated on Telegram groups and other QAnon message boards that they also intend to travel to Dallas on Tuesday for what they believe will be the moment they've been waiting for. When Trump is vindicated and order is restored, JFK Jr. has been a key part of the QAnon conspiracy mythos for some time. It began in June 2018 when someone claiming to be him posted on the message board 8chan and suggested he was the person behind the movement. The QAnon Anonymous podcast, which is excellent. I'd highly recommend it. They stream on Twitch, and I think they also are on Spotify. Probably Apple Podcasts. I'm not familiar. I don't have an iPhone. And they say, tonight's episode covers last weekend's dueling QAnon conferences in Salt Lake City and Las Vegas. The latter saw two different speakers some believe are a living JFK Jr., so which one is real? You decide. Left, Wano Savin, a.k.a. Wayne Willett Wright, Vincent Fusca. These are two separate people. I swear to God, this is a thing. There are two separate people in the QAnon community that the QAnon community regularly claim are JFK Jr. in disguise. I've heard of him. I've not heard of this guy. I've heard of Vincent. I've not heard of this dude. But apparently QAnon people think either of them might be JFK Jr. Tucker White says, so I've been stuck on why these idiots pick 1871 as the beginning of the United States Corporation, and I'm wondering if this from President Grant's tenure is what, quote, caused, unquote, this. Enforcement Act of 1870, Force Act of 1871, and the KKK. To add enforcement to the 15th Amendment, Congress passed an act that guaranteed the protection of voting rights of African Americans. Grant signed the bill, known as the Force Act of 1870, into law on May 31st, 1870. This law was designed to keep the Redeemers from attacking or threatening African Americans. Oof. You know, I wish I could live in a world where I would say, that's ridiculous, it has nothing to do with that, but I don't know. And a lot of conspiracy stuff, unfortunately, veers into white supremacist territory, basically randomly and for no good reason. Not that there's any good reason for veering into white supremacist territory, but conspiracy theories find just the worst reasons to do it. So anyway, that was before that. That was before the JFK thing happened, was that article. One sec. Dallas, QAnon. Let's see if we can find footage of that day.
Welcome back to Take Back JFK assassination.
Yeah, this is all from the day that they showed up in Dallas at Dealey Plaza, waiting for the return of JFK.
No, did not know it. Hundreds of, stop it right now, QAnon believers lined up on the grassy knoll. You guys know this grassy knoll. It's the site of the JFK assassination. They believed that the president's late son, JFK Jr., would miraculously appear and that he would help Donald Trump take back power and agree to be his running mate. In case you don't remember, JFK Jr. died tragically in 1999, of course, in a terrible plane crash with his wife and her sister, Carolyn Bessette Kennedy, as well. Questions?
Yes, I do,
Okay.
actually. Thank you for asking. Thank you for asking. My first question is,
Yes.
why JFK Jr. and not JFK, especially given the location that they chose to?
They do think it's JFK and JFK Jr. Anyway, so there were tons of people who showed up. Let's meet the leader of this group, shall we? Tucker White says, I used to think it was related to the election Rutherford B. Hayes, which was incredibly controversial and contentious, but that happened in 1876, not 1871, or the election of Rutherford B. Hayes. Narnian the Owl says, I would love to know how Trump feels about his cult paying more attention to a dead guy than him at the moment. Let me be clear about something too, by the way, guys. This is not the entirety of QAnon. If you run into someone online who is a QAnon person and clearly a QAnon person and you bring this up to them, there's a good chance they're going to be like, that's bullshit. Those people are bullshit. They're not in this. They're not Anons. This is all deep state plants. At this point, the QAnon community has begun fracturing into different, what I would almost call sects, similar to like a religion, where different groups believe different things. So this is a particularly batshit group, although it's all batshit. But this one, they're meeting in person and waiting for dead people to show up, so, you know. But don't expect every single QAnon person to necessarily believe this. I've seen plenty who are calling this a psyop to make Q people look crazy, because obviously we didn't already think they were crazy. The Distant Red says, LOL, do you think they're going to hire a JFK Jr. impersonator? PSYOP on the bingo card? Yeah, that'll count. I brought it up, but it's a thing that they talk about. Meet the anti-Semitic QAnon leader who led followers to Dallas to meet JFK. Many QAnon believers went to Dallas this week on the word of Michael Brian Protzman, who tens of thousands of loyal followers known as Negative 48. On Tuesday morning, hundreds of QAnon followers gathered on a grassy knoll in Dealey Plaza in downtown Dallas, believing they were about to see John F. Kennedy reappear. These people had traveled from all over the U.S., California, Florida, New York, Montana, and at least a dozen other states. On Monday night, there was an almost carnival-like atmosphere in downtown Dallas as they gathered in anticipation for the predicted return of the assassinated president, something they believed would also somehow trigger the return of former President Donald Trump to the White House and his announcement as King of Kings. Again, I think the issue with people in the press and in the real world is when they say things like, they believed would also somehow trigger the return of former President Donald Trump. Logic is not the point. The point has never been, we need evidence. The point is a narrative that makes them feel good, that makes them the heroes of the story. This is not about logic. This is not about reality. This is about playing pretend, whether they realize they're playing pretend or not, and filling roles in a narrative that is satisfying to them, that gives them purpose and a community to belong to. It doesn't matter that it doesn't make sense. It doesn't have to make sense for them. That's not what they're here for. Is Peter part of the JFK sect? Not to my knowledge. I don't believe Peter believes the JFK Jr. thing. I haven't heard him talk about it. But by early Tuesday afternoon, that sense of anticipation was fast disappearing, and as heavy rains started to fall, the people who had spent a lot of time and money traveling to Dallas to see JFK gave up and trudged back to their hotels. But for many, the cost and effort it took to get to Dallas were not wasted, because even though they didn't see JFK, many of them did get to meet the man they view as the manifestation of God on earth, Michael Brian Protzman, 58, known to his tens of thousands of loyal and obsessive followers as Negative 48, showed up in Dallas to see the prediction he'd made come true. Protzman, born in the same year Kennedy was shot. This is what I'm talking about, by the way. This is a person who wasn't even like a conscious, self-aware person when Kennedy... He wasn't even alive when Kennedy, I would imagine, was... he was born the same year Kennedy was shot. Yeah, so when Kennedy was elected, this guy wasn't even alive. But he has idealized JFK because through cultural osmosis, the United States has a huge boner for JFK, and, like, there are good reasons, too. There were great things JFK wanted to do in terms of, like, labor rights and stuff like that. Yeah, fuck yeah. But that's not what he's likes. That's not what he's obsessed with in terms of JFK, nor the QAnon people. It's that he was viewed through most of the 20th century, or at least, after he died, as the idealized American president. The what if, a turning point, Schmoop B, thanks for 12 months. Happy anniversary. Says, it's been a hell of a year. Your streams helped save my sanity and brought a little fresh baby into the world. Love what you do. Well, thank you. But nonetheless, the point I'm trying to make is he was not even alive for Kennedy, not in any way that matters, but he idealizes the caricature that pop culture has painted of JFK, and therefore he uses him as a prop in the narrative that pulls in so many other conspiracy believers. He has run his own demolition firm called Eclipse Demolition for the last 14 years from his hometown of Federal Way, Washington. Records show that the company went into administration last year, around the same time that Protzman was beginning a new career as a QAnon influencer. But unlike most influencers, Protzman has effectively built a cult within the QAnon movement, where his followers refer to him as a godlike figure, are willing to travel across the country to see JFK resurrected, and most of all, continue to praise Protzman even when the miracle fails to materialize. His rise within the QAnon world has been rapid. Back in March, his -48 Telegram channel had around 1,700 members. Today it has over 105,000 members, but aside from the numbers of followers Protzman has, what makes him stand out from other QAnon influencers is the loyalty and worship he has engendered in those people. Protzman has used his newfound fame to spread deeply anti-Semitic content while pushing highly suspect financial investigations to his followers, many of whom confessed within the channel that they are in vulnerable situations personally and are in need of help. Financial investments. I think I misspoke. Financial investments. I'm sorry, Dirtger, I missed your bits. Dirtger says, it's hilarious to me that Christians are so tired of waiting for Jesus to return. They made their own Messiah. Donald Trump is a golden calf. They literally made a gold statue of him. So yeah. And they call themselves Christians, right? It's weird. I don't really care. I'm not a Christian, but if I was, I'd be pissed, right? You'd think. Like, wouldn't this be insulting if you were a Christian? Tucker White says, Hannah Cronkite, from Dallas, Texas, The Flash, apparently official, President Kennedy. Oh, wait, I gotta be wearing glasses because there's a takes off glasses stage prompt. President Kennedy didn't show up at the 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. Glances up at clock. 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, some 38 minutes ago. Logard says, oh please, oh please, oh please, let there be Kool-Aid. Oh please, oh please. Not a great joke to me. I know you don't know the whole story, but based on what I'm about to read in the following articles, not a great joke to make. They might actually kill themselves. I'm not kidding. This is serious. Who was joking? Yeah, no, Gotta purge that shit. Don't be calling for people's deaths in my chat. Even in, no. Don't do that shit. That's a no-no. Purge. Guys, I literally have to enforce Twitch TOS. What don't you understand? Mike Mack says, as a Catholic, these people make me feel ashamed of my faith at times. Anyway. Where were we? Protzman has used his newfound fame to spread deeply anti-Semitic content while pushing highly suspect financial investments to his followers, many of whom confessed within the channel that they are vulnerable personally and are in need of help. As well as denying the Holocaust, shocker, Protzman's channel has boosted the deeply anti-Semitic film Europa, The Last Battle, a 10-part film that contains Jews created communism and deliberately started both world wars as part of a plot to found Israel by provoking the, quote, innocent Nazis who were only defending themselves. Oh my goodness. Killjoy with 100 bits says, we're fucked. Trump barely lost after nearly 500,000 people died from COVID, and these people are off their rocker, going to drink booze and eat ice cream now. Yeah, that's bad. Things are gonna get bad. They're already bad. They're gonna get worse. Things are gonna get worse. 2022, the Democrats are gonna lose. In 2024, there is a good chance Biden's gonna lose, whether it's to Trump or DeSantis or someone else. I don't know, but probably gonna lose, and Republicans are going to spend all of their time, as they have been already, dismantling democracy from within. So that's fun. Killjoy 102, I just read that one. Sorry. Yes, overt anti-Semitism on the bingo card. Anyway. If you haven't watched the documentary Europa: The Last Battle 2017, here's the link, said the Post, sent October 2nd. It has been viewed 38,000 times. He spread Holocaust-denying anti-Semitic conspiracy theory videos to almost 40,000 people. Don't worry. When is the spread of anti-Semitic conspiracy theories ever resulted in bad things for anyone? I could only name one time. H. Baird says, considering all the similarities, doesn't it make you wonder if Christianity is just 2,000-year-old QAnon? At this point, yeah, it's different because of the lack of social media, but it started like any cult. Religions often start as cults. It's not uncommon. Mike Mack says, but Hannah, don't you know we need to teach opposite views of the Holocaust in school? Guys, I don't know if you understand this, but we are already at a point where Republicans are they've been for decades trying to teach creationism in schools. Now they're trying to basically stop you from teaching anything in history that has to do with the disenfranchisement of minority groups in the United States. If you don't think within our lifetime, if you are my age, I'm 27, if you don't think within our lifetime there will be an actual concerted effort by right-wingers to stop teaching about the Holocaust in schools, or to try and both sides it, and unironically try and, teach Holocaust denial narratives in schools, you have not been paying attention. That is going to happen at some point. We might be 60, we might be 70, it could be next year at the pace things have degenerated. But at this point, I assure you that will happen. It's gonna be fucking sick. What's the reason? Because they're anti-Semitic, and they want to kill Jewish people. They want to vilify minority groups. It's how fascism works. Oh, look! Baja has a link. Are they already doing it? Texas schools are being told to teach opposing views of the Holocaust. Why? This is an article from a month ago. So, you're welcome. Whenever anyone calls me a doomer, I just go, Am I a doomer, or are you not paying attention? Am I pessimistic, or is everyone else delusional? Thanks, Baja. Anyway, he's also promoted the film Adolf Hitler, The Greatest Story Never Told, which is a title that makes me want to throw up, related to the, and said if Trump had done what he needed, he would have been compared to the Nazi leader. Blackwing Hecate says, seriously, is there anything we can do about this shit? Learn to use a gun safely in case you need to defend yourself someday? That's about all I got for you. Rachel says, hi from the UK, where teachers are already banned from talking about white privilege and anything that might, quote, heighten racial tensions by order of the government. That's gross. Bumble Homestead says, we're in Texas. This is legitimately part of the reason I'm keeping the kid in the online school so I can monitor their curriculum. Broadsman attempts to hide his hatred of Jews by discussing conspiracies related to Khazars, an anti-Semitic dog whistle that's been used by conspiracy theorists for centuries. But in an audio chat in May, Protzman declared to his followers that, quote, there are no Jews, period, anywhere, period. There is no Jewish race, and the Jewish leadership are basically the British Empire. The Roman Empire, it's just the criminals. This is a common anti-Semitic obfuscation. By the way, conspiracy theorists who peddle in anti-Semitism will often try to deflect from their anti-Semitism by saying things along the lines of, well, they're not really Jewish. As if the issue with anti-Semitism wasn't, the hatred and vitriol spat out at, an entire group of people, and just the fact that, they might be Jewish. Like, they are Jewish, but you know what I mean? It's weird to me that they think the problem is solved if they just go, well, they're not really Jewish. Doesn't matter. I don't care what group you're doing this to. You are taking an entire ethnic group, religious group, however you're considering it, and deciding they're all evil, you fucking ass. I just hate it. I hate it. Anyway, like many grifters, Protzman is pushing questionable financial advice to his followers. In this case, it involves investing in foreign currencies like the Iraqi dinar or the Vietnamese dong under the pretense that a, quote, great financial reset is coming and will revalue those currencies on a one-to-one basis with the dollar, instead of creating millions of dollars in wealth for those who have invested. While Protzman tells followers they can buy the currency anywhere, I like that conspiracy theory because it fundamentally doesn't understand how currency works and why certain currency is valued more or less than others. And if that happened, it would render all currency basically worthless. Like, if every currency in the world all of a sudden, each one, like one dinar or one dong or one whatever equals $1 American dollar and they're all equivalent, that's not good. That would crash the global economy immediately if you just did that, because all of a sudden money's all over the fucking place where you don't know where it is or what it's doing. There's no way. It basically ignores the fact that money is a stand-in for labor value, which it is. And don't get me wrong, you can kind of fuck with it as an instrument for the economy, but like, at the end of the day, it needs to mean something. When it stops meaning something practically is when shit starts to break down. Narnania Owl says it's like those who pretend anti-Semitism is something entirely different because the etymology of the word includes other ethnicities too. Yeah, it's stupid. It's like those people who are like, it's not homophobia, I'm not afraid of gay people. Like, you know what we mean, you asshole. Mike Mack says, did you talk about Trump having a black belt? I didn't. Andrew Patella says anti-Semitism is seen as worse than other kinds of bigotries, but that's not because the targets are Jewish people, it's because of the near omnipresence of anti-Semitism and because of the historical context. And if they think the Jews were, quote, replaced before World War II, the significant part of the historical context that remains. Yeah. The phobia suffix means aversion, not fear. I understand that. What I am saying is homophobes will use that and misunderstand that and say, literally, I am not afraid of gay people, therefore I'm not a homophobe. I don't misunderstand the idiom. Homophobes pretend to in order to pretend they aren't homophobes. That's the entire point I'm making. Anyway. While Protzman tells followers they can buy the currency anywhere, he says the best way to do it is by signing up on the website he promotes, where users have to sign an NDA before making their purchase, an agreement which he said on an audio chat in May that forbids them from discussing the details of the transaction. Wink. Quote, the stuff that I have seen has shaken me to my core, one researcher who had been tracking Protzman's activity for months told Vice News. The researcher, who tweets at the Exposing Extremism account, was granted anonymity to protect himself from attacks by Protzman or his acolytes. Quote, they're brainwashing people with English gematria. Protzman's popularity is built on a bastardized version of the numerology known as gematria, a Jewish system of assigning numerical value to a name, word, or phrase based on the letters used in inferring some sort of spiritual or mystical meaning behind the phrase. This is going to be numerology on the bingo card. Protzman's fake gematria is based on English A equals 1 to Z equals 26, rather than Hebrew Alf equals 1, Taf equals 400, a system Protzman appears to have co-opted from a similar method developed by English occultist Aleister Crowley. Protzman applies this fake version of gematria to passages of the Bible as well as QAnon phrases, freely mixing the two worlds to create a link between Christianity, QAnon, and the Kennedys. Protzman uses this system as proof to support his complex and fantastical lies he's told his followers. In Protzman's telling, Jesus Christ married Mary Magdalene and had 4 children with her. This gave rise to a bloodline that went on to create many famous people today, notably the Kennedys. He's also claimed that blood type O is a marker for the Christ bloodline and that the New World Order is trying to hunt down that bloodline by DNA testing COVID-19 PCR swabs. Oh my god. One sec. Baha? Hello? Can you hear me? She might be using the bathroom. 38% of the people on the planet. Jesus was a regular Genghis Khan. That dude was just coming everywhere. Anyway. In Protzman's fantasy world, JFK and Jackie Kennedy are the physical second incarnation of Jesus and Mary Magdalene. That would be incest then. Right? If Jackie Kennedy and JFK are related to Jesus and Mary Mary Magdalene had children, JFK and Jackie would be related. And JFK Jr. would be an incest baby. Don't put incest babies in your fanfic. Lockhart says, per the results of a study published in Neurology, people with this blood type are at an 82% higher risk of developing cognitive and memory problems that lead to dementia. In fact, those with blood type O may have lower risk of stroke and heart attack, which can lead to cognitive impairment. What's Jezebel on the bingo card? Jezebel is a biblical figure that was created, well, an apocryphal biblical figure that was the woman that God created prior to Eve, but she wanted to fuck Adam on top instead of being the bottom, and God was like, can't have that. So, Jezebel, wait, no. Am I thinking of the other one? No, I'm thinking of Lilith. Who was Jezebel? Jezebel is another biblical character that Bob Larson believes became a demon and is now a slutty demon. We watch his videos sometimes when he exercises the slutty demon. Lily Lovestuff says, so according to that guy, I'm a descendant of Christ. My half-black ass. I feel like that would deeply upset him. Your complexion's probably closer to what Jesus's was than a random white guy. Just saying. Deadman RPMX says, the title of this video should be called The Da Vinci Code Reloaded with Hannah Reloaded. Lily Lovestuff says, that's Lilith, Hannah, that's where my username comes from. Yeah, I fucked up for some reason. Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. I was confusing Jezebel with Lilith in my head for a sec. Logart says, Jezebel was the daughter of the priest king Ethbal, ruler of the Phoenician city of Tyre and Sidon. When Jezebel married King Ahab of Israel, ruled 874 to 853 BCE, she persuaded him to introduce the worship of Tyrian god Baal Melkart, a nature god. Most of the prophets of Yahweh were killed at her command. Interesting. One sec. Let me see if Baha can hear me. Hey, Baha! Thank you. Okay. Okay, sorry, I wanted to get clarification because Baha works in a lab, has used PCR tests. According to her, you can't get blood type from COVID PCR tests. Or if you were to, it would be very difficult because you'd be using... Excuse me. Because you'd be using a bodily fluid other than blood to try and blood type, which would be difficult. Oh, excuse me. D with Goblin says, the story of Jezebel also introduced me to the word, defenestrate, as she was killed by being pushed out of a window, as we deserved. Damn uppity women's having political authority and pride. Defenestrate. Thank you. Okay. The videos captured of Protzman in Dallas this week. He is seen speaking as if in a trance, channeled some higher source and talking or taking words or phrases, assigning them numeric values, and then linking those phrases to other words and phrases with identical values, implying some sort of meaning in those connections. When JFK, when JFK failed to materialize in Dealey Plaza on Tuesday, Protzman and many of his followers went to a Rolling Stones concert, where many claimed they met Michael Jackson in disguise. Not someone I would want to meet. I don't like people who fuck kids, though. Nick says this guy is either an idiot or an S-tier con artist. Porque no los dos. Protzman did not respond to multiple calls from Vice News to his cell phone or text messages, WhatsApp messages, or emails. Calls to numbers listed for Protzman business went unanswered, while calls to a number listed for his residence went answered by someone who said, no one of Protzman's name lives here. As outrageous and unhinged as Protzman's claims may sound, he clearly tapped into a demand for those messages. While other similar groups on Telegram also pushed followers to travel to Dallas, their basis for doing so was Protzman's predictions. And unlike other online conspiracy influencers, Protzman has so much sway over his followers that he was able to get them to travel from all corners of the country and show up in Dallas based solely on his word that a miracle was going to take place. While many within the broader QAnon community blasted Protzman and his followers for making a mockery of the movement by staging such a stunt, no, really, this is what I'm talking about in terms of them kind of splitting off into different sects. And despite the fact that Kennedy's didn't appear at Dealey Plaza, Protzman's followers remain loyal. In one group chat on Telegram channel filled with followers of Protzman on Wednesday evening, one follower said, quote, I am so energized and feel amazingly positive about all this. Another said, I think Dallas was a great success, adding, I'm so proud of Negative and the people that went there. During another live stream chat on Wednesday night, one woman claimed her menstrual cycle was altered as a result of the power of the spirit she encountered at the event. I don't even know about this lady's menstrual cycle. After everyone finished praising the event, the participants turned to discuss a rumor that former President Donald Trump was going to suddenly reappear at the White House at 9 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday evening and address the nation. Trump did not speak from the White House on Wednesday evening. In the early hours of Thursday morning, another chat was organized by Randall Moody, who is known online as Prime Minister. Moody was also in Dallas, and at one point during the event, he passed out while Protzman was declaring himself to be John F. Kennedy and Jesus Christ. This is a video I actually pulled up. Let's check this out. This guy in the middle here, in the blue shorts and kind of lilac, blue, purple shirt, whatever color that would be, that's Protzman. To his right, is he the guy that passes out? I don't remember. Check it out. Logard says, that spirit's name, Buddy, a tech for the venue.
He is Prime.
We want that
He
face.
spells with a Y. And Minister 77, Power 77, Glory 77, Christ 77.
Look at the pen.
And Prime with a Y is 77. Christ Minister, Power Minister, Prime Minister, Glory Minister. The 77 and 77 is 154. I want to introduce you to, I am the chosen one.
Yeah. Love you guys. Love you guys. A smiling face.
Baja says, this is actually a really great clarification. The article mentions wanting to test for O blood. Correct. He believes that O blood is a signifier of being related to Jesus. Which you can't do because the whole definition of O blood is the lack of antigens. So us with O don't secrete antigens into our saliva, so you wouldn't be able to test for it from body fluids other than blood. Nice. I'd count that as a Baja Blast. That was informative. I feel very blasted. Yeah. Gotcha. Baja, before that, said there are tests far quicker and easier to do to get blood types than a PCR of mucus saliva. A group of people do secrete blood antigens into their saliva, but not everyone, so it wouldn't make sense. Gotcha. Blackwing Hecate says, I am the Lord your God, and what the fuck is wrong with you all? JFK, probably. Nick says, I feel very blasted. Yeah, I say that after every sexual encounter with Baja. I feel incredibly blasted. It's like refreshing. It's like pouring a McDonald's Sprite directly into your asshole. That was about the reaction I was expecting from Baja. I don't know if anyone heard that.
The beginning and everything.
I want you to pay attention, and this is interesting too, to the ages of the people in the group. I'm not trying to be ageist here, but I would be remiss if I didn't point out that within QAnon communities, the average age appears to be around 50. Average age. For some reason, the biggest people in the QAnon community are all old people who just seem... How do I explain this? Everyone... It's a pretty common trope where people, when they get older, they get disaffected by the world and change, and they're like, I liked things better when I was a kid. These people are weaponizing that ideology into actively trying to sabotage democracy because they want a time machine that is impossible. Overthought says, if the Boondocks taught us anything, having past historical icons come back won't work out quite like people will want. Closed on Tuesday says, oh, what?
It's just, it's like what the hell did you do?
What happened to that? Get over here, dumbass.
Will things get better when the boomers die? No. Nick says, Solari is a good video on how Facebook radicalizes boomers. I'm sure it's good. No, I think the damage is fundamental at this point to America's political systems and economy, to the point that it's not fixable. You can't. Like, all the avenues of repair are out of the hands of people with reason to repair them. Everyone with the power to actually make structural changes that would help stabilize America as a country, economy, and culture for the foreseeable future are disincentivized from doing so because they are currently profiting from the system that is unstable and unsustainable. However, they are making a profit. So, you know, Ferengi shit. Things wouldn't be as bad if Democrats weren't completely bought out by corporations, but this is what I'm talking about. These are structural issues. Because of things like Citizens United, like, it's just, there's no repairing it. There's no repairing it at this point. Logarth says, the last industry the millennials will kill, whatever the fuck boomers do.
There's one king for you. Madam Joseph for Prime Minister for.
When does this dude pass out? I'm sure he passes out.
You guys are surrounded by love.
Father, Son, Holy Ghost, 2, 3. Home 174. Yes, John Kennedy 174.
Oh Oh, what a nut. Okay, let's move on. During a live stream on YouTube in the early hours of Thursday morning, Moody claimed he had met Michael Jackson at the Dallas event. He also claimed he had met around 5,000 people there, even though videos from the event show several hundred attendees at most. Astrofox says, I think older people are more prone to believing misinformation on social media because they grew up getting news from sources that were reliable, news agencies with journalistic integrity rules that aren't used to having to be skeptical of news they read. It's possible. It's also possible that people have never been particularly good at parsing through large amounts of disparate information, and it's only become an issue recently because people are exposed to such a fire hose of information on a daily basis that you have to make those calls that people historically have not had to make for themselves. Talking about everyone here, not just boomers, but young people too. Like, the share of young people that think the earth is flat has gone up. Just so everyone knows, like, young people are potentially susceptible to misinformation as well. Probably not as much as boomers, but don't think that when boomers die, we're done dealing with misinformation caused by things like the internet. Look at people like Peter. They exist. D with Goblin says, will things get better when boomers die? No, because Peter and John Doyle will still be alive, and Elvira will be dead, and after that, what is even the point? In an audio chat on his Telegram channel, Moody's outrageous claims continued. He claims that he experienced a conversation with the Galactics at the Rolling Stones gig, that Q is God, and that when I look at Michael Protzman, I feel like I'm looking at God. It's quite powerful. Moody seeks to monetize his following by directing them to his website, which offers links to discounted quantum health products and CBD oils. When Vice News spoke to Moody on Thursday, he attempted to rehash much of the same conspiracy theories Protzman had laid out in recent months, but when challenged about providing evidence of these claims, he ended the call. This week's event in Dallas was roundly mocked in media, and even among some other factions within QAnon. But for Protzman and his followers, the event was a huge success, providing that no matter how outrageous the claims you make are, you'll still find people to follow you. Or proving, rather, sorry. And given Protzman's obvious anti-Semitic views, what comes next could be even more troubling. Quote, I really think this was a test run because they're taking some of the most extreme ideas and trying to test that out on people. The exposing extremism researcher said. And potentially they could try this with something much more reasonable, but still disconnected from reality, and do it as a way of basically creating a new Nazi party. End of article. Narnia Owl says, I think the main difference is that older people in the movement have the time and means to show up in person, and the younger ones just keep browsing Reddit and Telegram. Yeah, that's a factor I hadn't taken into consideration. That's fair. Narnia Owl says, I think the main difference is the old... I just read that. Sorry, the scroll threw me off. Nick says, the Galactics, did they get the Pokemon Gen 4 reboot before the rest of us? Haven't played Gen 4. Don't get the joke.
Jesus Christ, I am.
This is him saying he's Jesus. This is an excerpt from the video we watched, skipped a little bit through. Here's where he's calling himself Jesus.
I am Jesus Christ, 174. Yes, John Kennedy, 174.
Oh, and there goes the guy fainting. He fainted because he said he's Jesus.
Father, Son, Holy Ghost,
a guy just passed out in front of him, and he's just gonna keep going. He doesn't care about the guy that passed out.
President John Kennedy.
Is this guy the organizer? The guy yelling is. Yes, he is the cult leader.
235. Alpha and Omega 131. John F. Kennedy. I'm the beginning of the end.
Creepy, creepy stuff. All right, one more article about this, and then we'll move on to the other stuff. Because this is, they got in contact with someone whose sister is in the cult, and it's not great. Oh, and look, the cult leader is wearing a tinfoil hat as to lampshade that he is a cult person. Anyway, Katie Garner and her sister grew up in a small town in Arkansas and were always close. Quote, we both were cheerleaders in high school. We made pretty good grades and loved to just hang out with friends and each other. No one has a perfect childhood, but we had each other. We knew that. And that's what made us so close. We even have matching tattoos to remind each other of that, Garner told Vice News. They both became nurses, and Garner's sister married a doctor and had 3 children. Then, around the time of the 2020 presidential election, Garner's sister started looking at some of the conspiracy theories swirling online about how former President Donald Trump lost the vote. Ultimately, she found QAnon. Cult says they're not a cult. They haven't said they're not a cult yet, to my knowledge. At least I don't see a quote about it, so no. They actually have to expressly deny that for it to count. It took her about 3 months to become totally obsessed, Garner said. That's all she would talk about. You would call her and somehow the conversation would turn into how we live in a world with reptilians and how the Clintons are evil baby eaters. Don't rope me in with the Clintons, please. Appreciate it. Then she found Michael Brian Protzman, known to his followers as Negative48, who's the leader of a QAnon offshoot that's been camped out in Dallas for the last 3 weeks, awaiting the return of JFK and JFK Jr. Garner's sister left her family behind and drove to Dallas about a month ago and has cut off almost all communication with her family. According to Garner, her sister has so far handed over about $200,000. Andrew Patella says, come on, the tinfoil hat is too on the nose. Who wrote this shit? She's given $200,000 to this group. $200,000. $200,000. An amount that is more than double what my house cost. Yes, I have a cheap house. Fuck you. The Distant Red says, I know I haven't been Christian for like 14 years, but doesn't the Bible specifically warn against fake Christs? Yes, it expressly warns against fake prophets. Do you know how the Bible tells you to spot fake prophets? If their prophecies don't come true, they're a fake prophet. So like if someone says JFK's about to show up in Dealey Plaza and JFK doesn't show up, the Bible says expressly that that person is a fake prophet and they should be punished. So anyway, her sister has so far handed over about $200,000 to the group and is being forced to drink a hydrogen peroxide solution and take, quote, biopellets to ward off COVID-19 and stay healthy. Boy, if only there were a vaccine that was approved by the FDA that could help you with that. She believes her sister will never return. Nerd Owl says Harold Camping must have missed that passage. Guess so. She left her children for this and doesn't even care. She's missing birthdays and holidays for this. She truly believes this is all real and we're the crazy ones for trying to get her to come home, but she won't, Garner said. I don't believe she'll ever come back from this. We're in mourning. Garner's sister was one of the hundreds of people who initially traveled to Dallas to see JFK appear on November 2nd. However, when that didn't happen, the goalpost shifted, and Protzman convinced dozens of people that if they waited long enough, something else would happen. Bear in mind, this is 21 days ago. 21 days ago since they thought JFK was going to show up. They're still there. Katie says her sister's brief message to her parents have gone from be home in a few days to I'm not coming home, my husband can take care of the kids, I'm not leaving until this is over. While the group initially appeared to be waiting for the reappearance of JFK, over the weekend, the tone of Protzman's comments shifted dramatically. Besides proclaiming that he was God's representative on Earth, he also took part in a video chat where participants openly spoke about having to experience death in order to learn the truth. Quote, ultimately, we have to experience that physical death. Let go. Come out on the other side, one of the participants in the video call suggested. Who owns Kool-Aid? I need to short a stock. I feel like something's about to happen that's real bad for their PR. Nick says Harold Camping must have also missed the passage about no man shall know the day or hour. Andrew Patella says, can we convince these Q fuckers that we have a magical quantum solution that will ward off the virus if injected into their arm? Yeah, that might work. Oh, let's watch the clip anyway.
With the information Charlie's dropped on you, if you're in Charlie's group and you're still around, you're tested.
Yeah, it's that baptism of fire going through that forge, which is ultimately what we all have to go through. We have to experience that physical death, let go of our ego, and come out on the other side. Burn everything that doesn't serve us. Burn all the lies away, and only all that's left is the truth.
Yeah, that's not good. Killjoy says the Q stands for Kool-Aid, the final Q drop. Yeep. Hours later, the administrator of Protzman's Telegram channel posted a screenshot of a This is bad. This is real bad. Hours later, the administrator of Protzman's Telegram channel posted a screenshot of a navigation app showing the destination as Waco, Texas, where in 1993, a month-long law enforcement siege of the Mount Carmel compound belonging to the Branch Davidians religious sect ended with 76 people dead, including 25 children. They're gonna Waco themselves? That's not good. H-Baird says, I suggest amplifying the snake bite kit conspiracy theory. At least people will get vaccinated. Do they think they can suck it out? Chaos, it's intramuscular, but they don't need to know that. Chaos is your friend said, even if it's real, what is the end goal here? What could possibly require you to leave your family behind to stand around waiting for someone to show up? Do you get a special badge for being there when he shows up? I don't know. The QAnon offshoot cult that has been camped out in Dallas for 3 weeks has been widely mocked for claiming that JFK and his son would suddenly reappear. But as the weeks have passed, the group's rhetoric has become increasingly extreme, and many cult and extremism experts are concerned about the direction the group has taken. Quote, the moment when the leader of a cultic group starts talking about the need for physical death to reach utopia is the moment to get the authorities involved, Mike Rothschild, the author of The Storm is Upon Us, a book about QAnon, tweeted. I think I have that book. Is it up here, actually? No, this is a different QAnon book. This is like a pro-QAnon book someone made and sent to me. I don't know. I might have it somewhere. I have a lot of books people have sent. Peter's cult is in Waco, right? They bought property near Waco. Two Man says, I genuinely fear this might turn into Heaven's Gate too. Oh yeah, that's where this is going. I genuinely do. God, hiccups. Oh God, it's so bad. That hurt my diaphragm a lot. Sorry. Yeah, I feel like this one's going to end really badly. I really think they're going to hurt themselves or others. It's going to be bad. There's nothing I can do about it. But Carolyn Orbueno, a behavioral scientist who researches social media manipulation and far-right extremism, compared the shift in direction of the group's rhetoric to the belief expressed by accused murderer Matthew Coleman earlier this year. Quote, these are basically the exact same spiritual religious teachings that the guy in California was getting into just before he brutally murdered his 2 young children, Orr tweeted. For those who don't know, that was the guy who thought his children were secretly reptilian lizard children, and so he killed them. He believed in the QAnon stuff, too. He went to Mexico and killed his kids and hid the bodies there. Several extremist researchers who are closely tracking this group's activities told Vice News that they have sent information to the FBI. A spokesperson for the agency's Dallas field office told Vice News that it cannot open an investigation based solely on a protected First Amendment activity, but urged members of the public who observed threatening, suspicious, or illegal activity to get into touch, because that's always stopped the FBI before. The FBI never gets involved and investigates groups that are just expressing their First Amendment right to protest. Logarth says it'll end up more like the Manson family, I bet. Innocent people dead, the leader in jail is a celebrity, and his closest victims in jail dead or made social pariahs. Maybe. A spokesperson for the Dallas Police Department told Vice News that, quote, the department has limited contact with the group. At this time, there's no significant reason this group should be the cause of concern. Oh, I see the cops are doing their job as well as they ever do. Nick says, ironically, whoever QAnon is literally is responsible for killing more children than saving any children. Yeah, that wasn't up for question. Oh man, I really fucked up my diaphragm. I'm glad I talk for a living. That's great. It's good whenever every word you say hurts. When contacted by Vice News on Sunday, Protzman did not deny the allegations about the threat his group posed to its members, but rather than responding directly to the specific questions sent to him, he lashed out at the media's coverage of the group, mocked mask wearing, and said the media were the, quote, whores for the 1% globalist pimps. That's a little funny. I'm very worried about her safety, one friend of a person inside the group told Vice News, requesting anonymity to speak openly about the situation. We don't know if she's given him any money, but her husband is about to cancel her cards. She's blowing through money fast. The woman said her friend's husband was making the decision to cancel the credit cards because he's worried about how he's going to pay his mortgage this month. In an audio chat amongst members of Protzman's group on Telegram, one man spoke about cashing in his retirement savings in order to fund his stay in Dallas. As well as soliciting funds from members of the group, Protzman and his core group of supporters continue to solicit donations from the hundreds of thousands of people who follow him online. Pandanom14, thanks for 10 months, says, this is the only cult I would join. Well, thanks for being part of our cult. The financial impact on the group's members is just one concern that's been shared by members of a splinter group of a former Protzman's followers who are now trying to help people leave him. In a Telegram channel the splinter group has set up, one woman spoke about her fiancé, who traveled to Dallas initially at the beginning of the month, returned home to Missouri, but returned to Dallas a week later after Protzman made another prediction. Now she's worried that her fiancé may be lost to her for good. Quote, I keep asking him to come home, and he keeps saying something big is going to happen, and he doesn't want to miss it. A member of the Dealey Plaza Truthers group wrote, I have always thought that perhaps my fiancé might be penniless if he stays with this group. I just hope they wake up before they lose everything. Protzman's latest deadline for something big to happen is Monday, the 58th anniversary of the assassination of JFK in Dallas. But once that passes without anything happening, Protzman will likely propose another date to keep people from leaving. And while Katie Garner believes her sister cannot be saved, she wants other families to be alert to the warning signs that someone is falling down the same rabbit hole as her sister. Quote, Protzman must be stopped, Garner said. My sister may be too far gone, but it's not too late to bring awareness to others. Do not fall into this trap. Do not believe what these people say. They're all delusional and brainwashed, and if you notice a family member isolating themselves, speaking of nonsense, say something, bring them back to reality. We didn't put two and two together. She hid this from us for a year. Don't let what happened to my family happen to yours. Pay attention and hold the ones you love tight. Very, very sad. All right, one more article from the people who left the group talking about what's going on inside of it, and then we'll move on because we have other stuff to do, and we've taken almost 2 hours covering this, but I find it really, really interesting. Zach Prakowski, thanks for following. Give me 1 sec to take a breather for my diaphragm. Ugh. We'll check the bingo card after this, too. Inside the QAnon cult that believes JFK is about to return. Have you all noticed she gets stuck on one subject lately? Don't talk about me like I'm not here. I can read your chats. Damn. I'm doing my best. Inside the QAnon cult that believes JFK is about to return. It was 2 a.m. on November 1st when Maureen McNamara realized that something wasn't right. She'd spent every waking hour of the past 2 weeks organizing a list of hundreds of QAnon supporters who were traveling to Dallas to see the resurrection of JFK, based solely on the predictions of one man, Michael Brian Protzman. McNamara, along with hundreds of Protzman's other followers, had been camped out in AT&T Plaza in downtown Dallas for up to 9 hours at this point, and her patience was wearing thin. There were children sleeping on that ground, McNamara told Vice News. There were elderly people, there were people with walkers, people with canes, people that were in pain, in a lot of pain. Chaos is your friend says, I feel like it's FOMO to the extreme, but I still don't understand how any kind of FOMO can be strong enough for you to abandon your family and spend all your life savings. I guess it just really says a lot about their life priorities. I assume a lot of these people, like a lot of targets of cults. And to be clear, anyone can be the target of a cult. You don't have to be a specific kind of person. Your intelligence level is not like the biggest indicator. Cults look for people who are vulnerable, people who are unhappy in their lives for basically any reason and are looking for something to belong to that is different from their day-to-day life as it is. So a lot of these people who are falling victim to this are probably people who just hate their lives for one reason or another, which is not an uncommon thing to have in the year of our Lord 2021. Things aren't going great for most people. So, it's not good. It's terrible, but, you know, there's a reason people fall prey to this. MWade19, thanks for 9 months. Sub baby time. This baby's name is, Luciferase McNasty. Luciferase McNasty. No one appeared, but then Protzman started to shout at everyone to turn off their phones and put them away, that something was about to happen. He told everyone to push back against the walls of the plaza and get ready. He stood 3 feet away from McNamara and told her, "Don't worry, you have the best viewing position there is. You won't miss a thing. You won't miss a thing. Keep your eyes open. You're right where you need to be right now." But again, nothing happened. Then suddenly, everyone was racing towards a small group of Protzman's closest advisors. McNamara wondered if something was finally happening, but when she got through the crowd, she saw that all that was happening was that everyone was being given a t-shirt with Protzman's online alias, -48, printed on it. Everybody scrambling to get one, like we all flew all the way to Dallas, stood around for 16 hours so we could have a t-shirt, McNamara said. Shirt should have said I drove all the way to Dallas and all I got was this stupid shirt. The line between Shudwatch and Tinfoil Tuesday thins. Yeah, sure. McNamara is now working to, quote, wake up those who are still enthralled to Protzman. Over a week after JFK failed to appear, Protzman remains in Dallas surrounded by dozens of his followers, and he's still predicting the reappearance of the long-dead president and his son, JFK Jr. There's talk of establishing a permanent base in Dallas, and the Telegram channels where Protzman's followers gather online have become even more openly anti-Semitic and extreme in recent days. For McNamara, a devout QAnon supporter, the attraction of coming to Dallas was less the intriguing prospect of seeing JFK appear and more about seeing like-minded people. Quote, "What drew me in more than that was an opportunity to be with like-minded people because every news story in this movement is that we've lost friends," McNamara told Vice News. James Luke Picante, thanks for 7 months, says, "What's going through their cult leader's head during all this? Think of all the money I'm going to siphon from these people." We've lost family, we've lost credibility, we've been isolated, we've been lonely, and we've been called lots of different names, crazy among them. And so there was this opportunity suddenly to gather with like-minded people, and that's what I wanted to do. That'll show them you're not crazy. This rhetoric is not helping, by the way. Me making fun of that person is the opposite of what you should do if you're actually trying to pull someone back from cult extremism or conspiracy stuff. I am here for both entertainment and hopefully to teach you something about conspiracies or whatever, right? I'm an asshole, so you don't have to be. If you have a friend who's teetering on falling into this, insulting them and calling them an idiot, well, maybe accurate, is completely antithetical to what you're trying to do here. People who fall into this stuff already feel as though that they're isolated and are looking for a bigger thing to be a part of, some community, some insight that will make them special. You pushing them further to the fringe, you're just going to push them further to it if you call them an idiot or crazy or whatever. Have a conversation with them, don't get me wrong, but, you know, insults aren't going to help. That's why even after spending 16 hours waiting for nothing to happen, McNamara got up at 10 a.m. the next day and joined the group at Dealey Plaza in the belief that JFK would return. At all times, Protzman was portraying himself as a Christ-like figure, McNamara said. He's acting like he's Jesus Christ with his disciples. Everywhere he went, there was this little group around him kissing his ring. And yet, she shelled out hundreds of dollars to go to a Rolling Stones concert that Protzman told everyone would be where JFK would finally appear. In fairness, if you like the Rolling Stones, you know, might as well go anyway. Oh, she doesn't. like them, so that's a waste of money then. I was never a fan of the Rolling Stones. I had no intention of going there, but then last minute everyone's saying, you gotta be there, you gotta be there. So I spent $300 on tickets, and it was raw and rainy and cold and miserable. She probably had to scalp them, too. Bloodwine says, we're being cathartically informed. Gotta get the rage out before and after those conversations for the sake of strength during. Yeah. At that point, McNamara was done and began calling out Protzman for his empty promises. She was joined by some others, but many remained loyal, and, quote, that is when the entire group just started turning on each other, and it was ugly. Now back home in Florida, McNamara started a new Telegram group to call out Protzman for his behavior. Protzman's acolytes in turn labeled McNamara and anyone who questioned their leader's credentials as traitors to the cause. Cult-like behavior, circling the wagons. Quote, I know many people who won't now be able to afford Christmas, but it was more important for them to be there. Or, they don't know how they're going to pay next month's mortgage payment, McNamara said. Many people make huge sacrifices financially in their relationships and their lives just to be there. Yet Protzman remains surrounded by dozens of strong group of loyal supporters in Dallas. On Thursday evening, in one of the many Telegram groups run by Protzman's inner circle, users posted videos of the group, including Protzman, dancing inside a hotel ballroom. One photo showed a young child inside the same room, late at night. Also on Thursday, Protzman urged his hundreds of followers... Over under, what are the chances it turns out the cult leader's a pedo? What do you think? 50-50? 60-40? Lily Love Stuff says, my mother was in a cult for 10 years and got convinced to join by her sister, who had come back into her life after 25 years and desperate to connect with her family after my middle sister was born. My grandfather was highly abusive, so her and her sister separated after her sister moved out at 16, and her sister got roped in while going through a messy divorce. And then, when my mom kicked out of got kicked out of the cult just in time to fall for Trump. Oof. Bad parenting? Yeah, bad parenting on the bingo card. Anyway. Also on Thursday, Protzman urged his hundreds of thousands of followers online to donate money to the group to pay for suits and ball gowns so that the group could attend an inauguration ball when JFK returns. This is the worst scam. This is the worst scam. This is a scam. This is what a stupid person thinks a scam is like. Like, this is a scam that, like, the characters on It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia would come up with, but for some reason it is working in real life with real people who are not caricatures. Like, what the fuck is happening? Such constant moving of goalposts is a typical technique within QAnon and allows the conspiracy movement to explain away unfulfilled promises. Vice News spoke to a family member of one of the people still inside Protzman's group in Dallas who requested anonymity to speak openly about his brother. While the Protzman follower was always into conspiracy theories, he never went too far down the rabbit hole, his brother said, until he began watching Protzman's videos. There were times when he would come over to my sister's place and say he's just got to get away from the computer for a bit because his brain is just all over the place because he's watching these videos. They're so mesmerizing. After over a week without hearing from him since he told them he was attending the Rolling Stones concert in Dallas, the man's family got a reply from him on Thursday when they received a message suggesting he's still in Dallas. Quote, I'm fine. I'm surrounded by people who love me. Again, that's what you say when you're in a cult. However, when they tried to verify that it was their brother who sent it, there was no response. Intercepting communication from family and making your communication that should be private between you and your family a group affair within the cult, that's insular cult behavior. That's like a part of the BITE model in terms of identifying cults, is that they're controlling your communication with people outside of the cult or restricting it in some way. Protzman's rise was based on the use of a bastardized version of a Hebrew numerology system called Gematria, where he links phrases and names together by assigning them a numerical value. In videos posted online, he goes into an almost trance-like state as if channeling some higher power. Dallas Police Department didn't immediately respond to Vice News' questions about whether they had been alerted to the group's presence in the city. Protzman and a person who had spoken to him in the past both declined to comment for this story. At this point, it remains unclear how this charade will end, but Protzman is continuing to use Gematria to convince those in his orbit that he has some sort of higher power. Those who are no longer under his spell are happy to be far away. Quote, I don't know how it will end, but I don't think it will end well. I'm glad that I am back in Florida, as far away from that as I can be, McNamara said. I think that's the first time any human being has ever been said the phrase, I'm glad that I'm back in Florida. Oh, boy. Seriously, though, this is not good. I'm making jokes, and I always do that to try and keep things light, to try and keep things engaging, in order to get through stuff that is otherwise dry or depressing. Yeah, that's not good. This is not good. This is not good. For the people involved, not good. This is a cult. This is a literal cult, like an in-person scary cult. I hope it dissolves, but at this point, cults like this, I don't think it's just gonna dissolve of its own volition at this point. Either it'll be explosive in the sense that enough people in the group will figure out that they've been scammed, and they will turn against their leader, Protzman, in order to get their money back or whatever else he's taken from them. For revenge, I don't know. Unlikely, not the most common. Or they're going to get even more insular. They're going to make it very difficult to leave. And then things go badly. Either get a big explosive event like Waco or Jonestown, or you get the slow burn. Sometimes you get a slow burn where just the cult persists and it kind of eats out the people that are inside it for years. Neither is good, but we'll keep an eye on this. Obviously, we took a huge portion of today's stream just looking at this, but this is because I wanted everyone to be on the same page in terms of what's going on with this group, because I have a feeling we'll be talking about them in the future, and I just wanted people to be aware of it, keep an eye out for news regarding it. If you happen to know anyone who's getting into the QAnon stuff, be wary of that, and try and get them to back off from the edge if you can. But yeah, that's what's going on in Dallas. Not good.